This is Sam Brown, Gospel Doctrine Extras, and I thought it would make sense to begin by just looking at some of the editions of the Book of Mormon that we have. This year's topic for Come Follow Me is Book of Mormon, and it's a pretty big transition from New Testament. In the New Testament, you have a dozen different translations, and then you have hundreds of commentaries. You even can take your pick out of 5 or 10 different editions of the Greek New Testament itself. And it can feel when you move from New Testament to Book of Mormon like you've gone from really this incredible richness of texts to just the one edition that you get in the standard works. And the reality is that that was never really true, but it is certainly dramatically less true in the last maybe 10 or 15 years. And we now are in a situation where we really have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to the Book of Mormon texts. And I thought I would start out by saluting Grant Hardy. Grant Hardy is a Chinese historian in North Carolina, and he and his wife Heather are really careful readers of the Book of Mormon, especially when it comes to the narratives and the narrators of the Book of Mormon, using basically just the English text. I've done a great job of thinking through, presenting, collating, and discussing in really meaningful ways the shape of the text. So back until really just this last year, I would say that the top version of the Book of Mormon to read as a supplement to the standard version that you get from the church distribution centers is the one that University of Illinois Press published. But it's been superseded. Now, fortunately for Grant, it was superseded by Grant. Grant got with the Maxwell Institute at BYU and the LDS artist Brian Krzyznik, and together they put together a beautiful, elegant, thoughtful, and wise edition of the Book of Mormon. The woodcuts are from Brian Krzyznik. The text is the official 2013 edition, English edition of the Book of Mormon, but then Grant, much as he did previously, has broken out the text so that you can see where you've got poetry, where you've got prose. He has little introductions to sections that are really just aligned to orient you to what's going on. And he includes a really helpful notation for keeping track of all the different people named Nephi or Lehi or Alma or Helaman. And he also includes a relatively modest, what scholars will call an apparatus, but that's just the little footnotes that are at the bottom of many of the pages. Mostly they're designed to help you understand when the text is connecting to other scriptural texts. And as you read the Book of Mormon, and this is an argument that I make in my translation book, the Book of Mormon is intimately connected to the Bible in ways that you can't read the Book of Mormon without also reading the Bible. And Grant really sets you up for this. So I would say that if you got to have one supplemental edition of the Book of Mormon that you use, I would make sure that it is the Maxwell Institute. But then, that may not be enough for everybody. And I personally am a big fan of these really cheap facsimile editions of the Book of Mormon, which give you basically a photocopy of the text as the Latter-day Saints in the 1830s and 1840s would have encountered it. It was set up to look just like a Bible, and then the story inside it just continuously flows. There aren't the verses and chapters that we've become accustomed to after 1879 with the Orson Pratt edition. And for example, when I was writing In Heaven as It Is on Earth, I read this one cover to cover because I wanted to make sure that I had a feel for what the Book of Mormon might have looked like to the people who were reading it at the time. And then for the even more serious scholar, I would say, you really want to look at Royal Skousen's critical text. Other projects are looking at other aspects of the Book of Mormon. Royal Skousen is asking, how close can we get to the words that Joseph Smith said out loud to his scribes when he was dictating the Book of Mormon? And with some pretty careful linguistic research and looking at the original manuscripts of the Book of Mormon, Royal's been able to identify a pretty darn good version of what we think is what Joseph Smith said when he was dictating the Book of Mormon. Because remember, the Book of Mormon in English is not initially a written text. It's initially an oral text that's said out loud. Those are the main scholarly references or additions that I think would be useful for Book of Mormon study. But then as a little bit of frosting on the cake, Michael Hicks, who's a BYU professor of musicology and a really funny and wise and smart guy, put together a vernacular version of the Book of Mormon. He calls it the street legal version of Mormon's book. And in an almost slang and fun and sometimes a little bit flippant, but always deeply respectful way, he walks through the stories of the Book of Mormon. So this is more for devotional fun and a new take. And the others are very helpful, I think, for really settling into the text and what it's about. And with that, happy reading. I think this is a fantastic time to be a Latter-day Saint and to be a student of the Book of Mormon. There's so much available now that didn't used to be available. I'll see you next time on Gospel Doctrine Extras.